Well, hey everybody, it's Sandy. Welcome back to my channel dedicated to helping you advocate for your own health one topic at a time. So here I am with my own health. I have COVID for those of you who didn't know. So going on day 3. So this is the second time I've had COVID. My last bout was 9 months ago. So I was a little unhappy that it only took 9 months, but I guess that's actually not uncommon. And I think I know where I got it now. So anyway, I said I'd be checking in periodically, so that's the purpose of this video. I'm just going to check in with you guys. Yeah, I sound awful, and I don't feel as bad as I sound. My voice has changed. I'm mildly congested in my nose. My throat is not sore anymore. That was the first thing. My throat was so sore. That started on late Saturday night. Like, I think it was actually early Sunday morning, like I got out of bed in the middle of the night with a very sore throat. And let's see, that was pretty much resolved after 24 hours, and then it started to become a little more of like the nasal congestion, and I have the dry cough. It doesn't bother me too often, but every now and then I'll have a fit of dry coughing at night, just trying to go to sleep. It's a little bit difficult, but honestly, this is like a mild cold. I usually have much worse symptoms with a regular old cold than I do with COVID this time around, and also last time around. The acute aspects, like the respiratory aspects, seem really pretty mild. So I'm using hot liquids. I have a nebulizer with some saline, just plain saline, no medication in it, and that helps to moisten the airways. So then sometimes the cough is a little more productive for a few minutes after that. I don't know if I'm going to take Mucinex anymore. I haven't really found that it helped. Sometimes I tried the same ingredient, which is guaifenesin, the expectorant, in a liquid form. There's like a honey Robitussin. I don't know. It helps for like 10 minutes, it seems, and then it's over. So I don't know. I did start taking Paxlovid on after day 2. So I was actually just like an hour short of like the when I think is the demarcation line for hitting day 2. And I talked about that a little bit in the Facebook group. I had read a couple of early preprint studies. I don't think these are the be all end all, but I do think that because these are the only studies I've seen that further hone the timing of Paxlovid, and they both say the same thing. One was a modeling study and one was an observational study. The observational study was small, but I think persuasive. I think they both point to the need for more research on that. I think right now the anywhere up to 5 days is kind of a broad recommendation, and I'm glad that the time period that you have to start taking Paxlovid extends up to 5 days, but I would bet that people waiting 5 days maybe don't have the same experience as people taking it in one day. And furthermore, the studies that I'm referring to that I read and I posted them in the Facebook group, um, they were looking at rebound and whether there was a sweet spot in there where you could, um, one of them, it just happened to be an incidental finding, and the other one was specifically looking for information on rebound. But they both pointed to the same thing, that if you wait until day 2, basically rebound is very exceedingly rare, and in the one observational study, they didn't have it at all. So anybody who started Paxlovid starting at day 2 or later, they didn't have any rebound. So the theory is that it's too soon. If you start it too soon, there's too many target cells left. Well, I'll leave it for you guys to look at in the Facebook group. I don't want to get into a whole scientific discussion about it, but it has to do with the number of target cells, and there's a sweet spot where you might take the drug and still get all the benefits and not have rebound. Rebound is a nuisance. It's not dangerous. So there's certainly an excellent argument for saying just take it as soon as possible. If it's day 1, take it, because the sooner you cut down on the viral replication, the better. The way the drug works is it stops the virus from replicating. It doesn't kill the live virus. It just stops the replication. So whatever's already there and has replicated, that's there. Anyway, so I waited to day 2. That's exactly what I had done the last time. I think the last time it might have been just past day 2, but it wasn't completely day 3 yet either. So I had a good result with it. The only thing I will say that's different this time and is new as of this morning is GI upset. Now, last time I had a lot of GI upset right away, like very irritable bowel diarrhea. And I had that right away before I ever started Paxlovid. So obviously that was the COVID. That's actually a lot more common than people think. In fact, some people present with COVID with just diarrhea only and no respiratory symptoms at all. I can't even imagine. Like, it would take a while before you'd even think COVID. Um, So, yeah, I wasn't too surprised about that. It was awful for several days, and I was very scared that, sometimes with GI stuff, it can last a long time, like a form of long COVID or long any kind of, if you have gastroenteritis, you can get post-infectious irritable bowel. And I was worried about that. So I thought I got away without that, but that started this morning. And so now, because I have started the Paxlovid, I've had 2 doses of it. I'm not 100% sure that I can blame only the virus versus the Paxlovid versus a combination of both. I think the only way to know is to just wait. If it's the disease, then the Paxlovid should be working and it should start to dwindle away like it did before. On the other hand, again, you can still get some post-infectious irritable bowel, but last time I didn't. So I'm going to hope and pray for the best because that doesn't sound pleasant. And yeah, I'll keep you posted on that. The other thing that's come up that I wanted to talk about has come up several times with Enovid, both when I got COVID 9 months ago when I was in Israel and this time, and people say, oh, the Enovid spray must not work. So I disagree, and I'll tell you why. Yes, I am using the Enovid, and yes, I was using it back the last time when I got COVID, and I was using it this time. I don't know that I can expect that much out of Enovid. Like expecting to not get infected at all with a virus that's this highly aerosolized and this um, communicable is, I think that's a lot to expect. I think it's more infectious than measles. So, does it cut down on the viral load? It does. I mean, that's been shown in studies that it cuts down in a logarithmic fashion on the viral load by a certain amount. I think it was like 98 or 99% in the 48-hour mark. But that means the viral load is still there. It's so, now maybe I had come in contact with it several times while using Innovid before this and didn't come down with COVID because the viral load wasn't sufficient. That could have happened. But more importantly, I think the most persuasive thing that I saw about Enovid wasn't about prevention, but it had to do with the study they did, the clinical trial on treatment. And they looked at people in 2 groups, people who had Enovid every 4 hours after they knew they had a positive diagnosis of COVID, and other people who didn't take it. And the people who took it, on the average, cleared up the infection about 4 days sooner than the people who didn't take it. Now, I can say that I turned negative pretty quick last time. I think it was maybe by I want to say it was day 7 that I had my first negative test last time. At the most, it was day 8. I think that was the last time I tested. So I think it might have been day 7, but it was quick. And this time the symptoms seem to be moving along quickly as well. As I said, I don't have a whole lot of respiratory stuff. Now, I wouldn't expect the Enovid to help with if there's any part of the COVID that has invaded my GI tract. And, that's going to take its course, run its course as the disease. But the respiratory symptoms, like I said, are really pretty mild. So I don't know. I think that bodes well for the Enovid, and I wouldn't want to go without it. So since I've had it, since I tested positive, I did start taking it every 4 hours around the clock, the same way they used it as a therapeutic in the clinical trial. So I have an alarm clock set. Every time it goes off, I just tell Google to set it again for 4 more hours. And yeah, so I'm taking 2 sprays in each nostril every 4 hours, and it does seem to be keeping the symptoms, at least the respiratory symptoms, are very mild. I'm sleeping pretty well at night. I'm breathing. My nose, it's a little stuffed, but not bad. Yeah, so I think that's a lot to expect of Inovet, and I still think based on the clinical research and, I'm a clinical sample. I'm a population sample of 1, so I don't want to clone myself and try it without it, but yeah, I'm happy with it. And yeah, would it be better if I didn't get it at all? Yeah, ever? Yeah, but I think it's just one more thing in the bag of tricks that we put. So, as far as when I tested, this is an interesting thing because it's the same thing that happened last time. I tested for the first time when I had symptoms and I was negative. And that happened last time as well. And last time I just concluded, oh, it's a cold. And I waited till the next day. And then my husband tested positive. So, of course, I tested again and I was positive. But this time what I did is instead of just, obviously, I wasn't going to conclude it was a cold this time, just based on my previous experience. But what I did is I tested again right away and I did a throat swab. And the throat swab was immediately positive. So last time I remember on the second day, I actually tried the throat swab and it was positive as well. So, so that was like day 0. That was the first day of symptoms. day one, the next day, I tested again with the nose, and that was positive the second day. So, I think I've read more and more about this, and I just think my own anecdotal experience, just watching people and seeing how many people test negative with all these, they've got somebody in their house that is COVID. They test one time, they're negative, and they conclude they don't have it. All kinds of ridiculous things, but um, it just verifies what I already knew, which is that we're missing a lot of diagnoses. I First of all, I think with the Omicron variants, that the throat is where it shows up first. You have a lot of sore throat at the very beginning. That's where it is. So if you swab the throat, you're going to find out. I haven't found any reason to not swab the throat. The most of the reasons I saw were that, well, it doesn't capture that many more people. Like the next day, you'll turn positive in your nose anyway. I read one um, opinion, and it was based on nothing, and there were no examples or no data to show that this was an issue. But maybe if you just ate or drank something very acidic, it might change the pH, and that might change the test. I hadn't. It was first thing in the morning, so I hadn't had anything to eat or drink. So, but I guess that's a good point. I guess I would just, wait a half an hour after eating or drinking and just have some plain water. Um, and then wait a few minutes and do the test. But, nonetheless, my own experience and also what I hear out and about tells me that, if people were negative and they went ahead and swabbed their throat, they'd find out a day sooner if they're actually positive, or do what you're supposed to do, which is continue to test if you still have symptoms every few days. I know a lot of people don't do that. They test one time, it comes out negative, and they say, oh, I don't have COVID, it must be a cold. Yeah, so I think that's one public health issue. So anyway, that's how I'm doing today. I do want to mention that, one of the reasons I do any of this stuff that I do, which I've mostly done on Facebook lately, I kind of took a break for a while, but most of the all of the work really that I do is, really just to help other people so that they hear my perspective, or they also can tell from what my experience is. And if they're, thinking about what they might do, just one more bit of information coming from somewhere, from somebody. Um, so if you have something that's like not particularly nice to say, you could kind of save it, Um, I don't mind people having all different opinions. I know some people have chosen to continue to isolate, which I have not. I know some people think all of this is ridiculous. Some people have contacted me and said that, I shouldn't bother having any more boosters or vaccines. That's fine. That's your point of view as well. And by the way, I haven't had a booster since before my first bout of COVID. So I went 9 months between bouts, and I hadn't had a booster. So, I don't know what that means. By the way, the boosters don't stop you from getting it anyway. I think they probably do help you handle it well. How I would have done with a booster before this versus without it, given that I had COVID only 9 months ago, I don't know. It seems to be, running its course and pretty mild. Minus that I'm having GI symptoms, which I had last time. I think some people get GI symptoms. And again, I have read that's more common than we realize. The other thing I'm doing is I'm taking Atrantil, which I've done a video on that. It's really for SIBO, small intestine bacterial overgrowth and bloating, but it basically contains a powerful antioxidant for the GI tract specifically. I take it every day of my life, but excuse me, I've upped my intake of that to 3 times a day. So I'm hoping that might help me a little bit. I normally take a probiotic. I take a Walgreens generic form of Florastor, which is a spore-based probiotic. I have added now something called BioK Plus, which is a lactobacillus. I don't like to take very many of those, but I decided to add that just for a few days now, given the GI distress I'm having with the virus. I suspect it's the virus, so I don't know. I'm going to keep you posted as to how that goes. So anybody has any questions, please go ahead and put them down in the comment section. I'm also going to post this in the Facebook page, and I'll continue to keep you posted. Okay. Be well. Bye.